that at that point in time. Is that correct?
Yes.
All the court was asking you would it be okay if Mr. McCarthy stood in, but you added you thought he was very capable. Is that correct?
Based on what the judge told me, yes.
Sir, can you answer the question without qualifying it? Was that a yes?
Your Honor, he's trying his best to answer.
No, he's
No,
not.
he's not. Answer the question either yes or no. And as I indicated, your counsel, Mr. Ambrose, is going to have an opportunity to expound.
Yes.
Okay, good.
And again, on November 19th, 2014, the subject came up again. You recall?
What was the date, I'm sorry?
November 19th, 2014.
Okay.
Page 4, counsel. The court. Mr. Bashar, Ms. Diallo is not here today. She's sick. Defendant, I hope she's feeling better. Court, do you feel competent and will you agree to allow Mr. McCarthy to go forward and examine the witnesses today? Your answer, I do. I am very confident in Mr. McCarthy's abilities and his handling of my case. Yes, you indicated that. Is that correct?
Yes.
You indicated that of your own free will and choice. Is that correct?
Yes.
Nobody forced you to add those superlatives. Is that correct?
No. No one forced me.
And further on that page, Mr. McCarthy says, yes, Your Honor, we've divided up the labor of examining the witnesses, but we work together on a strategy for dealing with each witness from the beginning so that if something like this were to occur, each of us is prepared to go forward with any witnesses that the people present the court. And do you have no objection to that, do you, Mr. Bashar? And you answered, I do not. Is that correct? You answered, I do not?
Yes.
And you heard Mr. McCarthy say at that point in time that they worked together on a strategy. Is that correct?
That the two of them worked together?
Yes.
I assume so.
You heard it when he said it in court. Is that correct?
I heard it when he said it in court.
And at that point, you did not object and say, Judge, the strategy that they worked out is not the strategy that I want. You did not say that. Is that correct?
No, I did not.
Further, you spoke last week when you testified about certain witnesses that you wanted called. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you made a motion for an improper motion on the date you were sentenced. Is that correct?
I made two of them, yes.
And one of them, on the date that you were sentenced, on page 14, you indicated it was an emergency motion for ineffective assistance of counsel. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
And you stood up in open court and you told the court at that point in time what you were dissatisfied with. Is that correct?
I summarized it, yes.
Okay. And in your summary, you did not list a single name of witnesses that were not called, that you asked to be called. Is that correct?
I don't recall what I said at the time, as I do recall not wanting to burden the court's time. I summarized the motion, but the motion spoke for itself as to those I didn't want called.
But at any rate, when you said the highlights of my motions, it goes further to document the failure to call witnesses I wanted to call. You said that. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you did not list each and every witness that you wanted to have called, correct?
I did not,
Thank you.
as I recall, no.
And for the record, how many pages was each motion? Do you know, Madam?
I can answer that if you'd like.
Yes, please.
The first motion for preserving the record was 17 pages.
And that was front and back?
No,
Just front?
single side.
And, okay, and the second motion?
For ineffective assistance was 28 pages, including an appendix of 1 page. And then you instructed me to write down the community service listing, and I was hurried through it by Mr. McCarthy and Ms. Diallo, and I did a page and a half, but it was part and partial. It wasn't complete at all.
Okay, but you wrote down 28 pages on one and 17 pages on another. Is
Yes,
that correct?
yes, ma'am. That is correct.
Okay, so that's around 50-something pages,
28 and 17 would be 45.
45 pages. And in any of those pages, you didn't list any witnesses that you wanted?
Absolutely, I did.
But you didn't say, my question to you is what you indicated in open court. You did not say the names in open court. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct. My motion to...
Sir, that your question was...
Well, I was answering the
asked-
judge's
the
question.
judge- No, I asked you a question. She was finished asking questions. If the judge wants to ask you additional questions, I'm sure she will.
Okay?
Thank you. Now, when we spoke on Friday, excuse me, yeah, it was Friday, I believe, you indicated that when the police spoke to you, you told them that you had given them names of other people. Is that correct?
At what time, Counsel?
When the first meeting you claimed with Olson and Captain Locke, you indicated to them, you gave them the names of people who were threatening you. Is that correct? Or you thought might want to do you harm. Is that correct?
That's what didn't you testify to that Friday?
I did.
Okay.
I did. The answer is yes.
Okay. You also indicated at Friday that you wanted to show them or play them the voicemail, but they didn't ask for to listen to it. Is that correct?
I don't recall them asking, no.
Okay.
And I did offer.
You did offer to play them the voicemail you had. And who was the voicemail from? Mr. Popham?
Yes,
Okay. And you offered to play them the voicemail at that point in time, correct?
that is correct.
Okay. You didn't offer to play them any voicemails from threatening voicemails from Mr. Gintz, did you?
Pardon me?
You didn't offer to play them any threatening voicemails from Mr. Gintz, correct?
I never had any threatening voicemails from Mr. Gentz.
You didn't offer to show them any threatening text messages from Mr. Gintz, is that correct?
I never had a threatening text message from Mr. Gentz.
Okay. You didn't offer to show them any harassing text messages from Mr. Gintz, correct?
Correct.
Now, can we have, but you indicated you were scared of him, correct?
No, I wasn't. Mr. Gentz you're talking about, or
Yes.
Mr. Popham?
Mr. Gintz.
No, I was not scared of Mr. Gentz.
And you never indicated to anyone that you were scared of Mr. Gintz.
I don't
correct?
recall indicating that because it wasn't true.
Okay, can we have 33H?
If this is somebody you're trying to help out, how does he go from someone who needs help to someone you're scared of?
Well, I'll tell you, because he kept calling me, and the tone of his calls over the past 3 or 4 weeks got a little more insistent. I need some money, and I know you've helped me out, but I need more money from you. I'm going to lose my daughter. He had an issue with his daughter in court or something with a custody thing.
Before we played the clip, you indicated that you were never scared of Mr. Gintz, correct?
That's correct.
In the clip, the reporter asked you, how do you go from trying to help him to being scared of him, correct?
The report, no, ma'am, yes, that's what the reporter said.
Okay, and you did not at that point in time say, I'm not scared of Mr. Gintz, did you?
I did not say that. No, I did not use those words.
Thank you. Now, did you further indicate that Mr. Gintz sent you several texts in the weeks leading up to your wife's murder?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
Did Mr. Gintz send you several texts in the weeks leading up to your wife's murder?
No, I had one text from him at the end of December asking for $50. And then before that, I think there was one previous to that where he told me to call him, and I told him I was in a meeting. And
So you're saying you only had one text?
I had 2 texts from him, as I recall.
Okay. Can we have 33G?
How many times did you say you texted him in the last 3 weeks?
A couple, just because he texted me, call me, do this, and I just said, leave me alone. I really called him back. When he texted me, I would call him back and say, please don't bother me. I'm not giving you any more work. We're done. And I paid him the $452 from a business checking account. And we were done.
And the $450 was for what?
For work that he did, these menial tasks in December and January.
So 3 weeks, the last 3 weeks, maybe talk.
Now, as it relates to the one text you had where he said, could you loan, and to be clear, he asked you, could he loan you $50? That was the text. You remember that?
I do.
And do you recall texting him back, I'm out of town, I'll call you back?
Yes,
Okay, you did not say, stop texting me, I'm not going to loan you money. In that text, did you?
I did not.
And furthermore, when Mr. Brewstar came to your house to take down the information to forward to the police, you did not show him that text, did you?
I don't save my text messages, no.
You don't save your text messages?
I do not.
Okay, none of them.
Well, I don't recall if I saved one or two, but I typically didn't save text messages, no.
Okay. Well, do you recall indicating on Friday that you wanted to show or you wanted to let the officers listen to your voicemails where Popham had threatened you?
Yes,
You did, in fact, go into the police station when Mr. Popham was making his phone calls to you. Is that correct? You walked into the police department of Grosse Pointe Park, correct, to write out a written statement on Mr. Popham.
on what day is that?
Sir, I'm asking on any day.
I don't recall.
Okay.
I don't recall that I did it. I need to know frame of reference.
Well, I'll give you a frame.
Okay, thank you.
Do you recognize the signature on the bottom of that page?
This is my writing and my signature.
Okay. Is it your writing on the statement?
Yes,
Okay. So you, in fact, wrote out a statement concerning your dealings with Mr. Popham. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Read it over to yourself. And when you're finished, let me know.
I'm done.
Okay. You had a chance to read that, haven't you?
I just did, yes.
And in that statement that you made when you made your original report on Mr. Popham, you don't mention a single voicemail, do you?
Voicemail or,
Did I say voicemail?
well, let me reread it because
Take your time.
Let me know when you're finished.
35 calls and
Don't
then,
read it out loud.
and,
Read it to yourself.
okay, I have.
Okay, are you here to answer the question? About whether or not you saved those voicemails for Mr. Popham?
I don't have the word voicemails, but I have the word calls.
Okay.
Okay. I understand. There's a difference between a call and a voicemail, correct?
Pardon me? Call and a voicemail?
Yes. There's a difference between having a call and a voicemail. Is that correct?
Well, a voicemail is a call to a phone left on the recording, so no, there's no difference.
Okay. Do you ever say that you're showing them or you bring a voicemail into the police?
No, they didn't ask me for it, and I didn't provide it to them.
Okay, just like they didn't ask you for the voicemail, just like Locke and Olson never asked you for the voicemail. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And do you talk about text messages?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And do you indicate that there was a recent text message where Mr. Popham said that you basically were messing with the wrong, the most recent text message refers to him being a Marine, and I had made a big mistake by crossing him.
I may have confused the word text message with voicemail,
Okay,
but
let's stop right here. Let's talk about this confusion. Now, when you talked about confusion earlier in your testimony, your confusion stemmed from the fact that your wife had been brutally murdered. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, repeat that question.
When you first talked about confusion during the course of your testimony, you indicated that that confusion was related to the fact that your wife had been brutally murdered, correct?
Yes,
Okay. Now, back in November of 2011, when you are making this report on Mr. Popham, your wife is still alive, correct?
yes, she is.
Okay. So now we have another source of confusion.
I wouldn't say so.
Okay, but now you seem to be confused about something else, whether you were using the word text and voicemail interchangeably.
Ma'am, it's not a question. You asked me, is it interchangeable? And I'm answering your question.
Did you use the word text message and voicemail interchangeably?
No.
Okay. Now, certainly, since you've indicated that you didn't save your text messages, you would not have had any text message to show the police on the 25th when they came to your house, correct?
From what time period?
You're the one who said you have it from any time period.
No, I saved some text messages, but others I deleted. I saved them as I needed, and I deleted as I needed.
But you didn't save the ones that you got from Mr. Popham.
No, I did not.
And-
I say because I had the voicemail message from him
Well, you didn't
threatening me.
But you didn't put voicemail? You didn't?
At the time of this statement, I think he left me that threatening voicemail after the time of this statement. He did use the term "I'm a Marine" and all that,
Okay, well,
but that was prior to. But there's also,
Let's explore this.
okay, go ahead.
If he left a threatening voicemail after you filed this report, did you call and make a supplemental report?
No,
Thank you.
he was in jail. I did
My
not.
question was, did you make
No,
a
I
supplemental
didn't.
report?
No, I did not.
Now, also, you indicated that there was somebody else. But at any rate, when you felt threatened by Mr. Popham, you physically went yourself to the police department. Is that correct?
Yes,
At some point in time, you felt threatened in 2011 by somebody by the name of Kim Soley. Is that correct?
yes.
Okay. And that was in February of 2011. Is that correct?
I don't recall the date, but if you tell me that, I'll take that as true.
Do you spell that last name for the record now?
Soley.
Okay.
Let me know when you're ready.
Am I just reading the page you handed me, or both pages?
Whatever you want to read, sir. Let
Take
me
your
know when you're ready.
time. Read both of them.
I'm done?
Okay. On February 25th, 2011, you had phone contact with Mr. Soley. Is that correct?
I don't recall. That's what it says here, but this is his statement, so I don't recall that we had phone contact.
This is the police report, sir.
This is the police report that was taken, yeah, then that would be correct, yeah. I don't recall it, but yes.
Okay, fine. The fact of the matter is, you received a phone call from Mr. Soley. Is that correct?
I received several from him, yes.
Okay. And Mr. Soley indicated to you that he was coming to your house the following day. Is that correct?
No, he did not.
Well, per the police report, doesn't it say, on February 25th, Soley contacted the sheriff via cell phone and stated that tomorrow, Saturday, February 26th, he was...
Oh, yes, he did say that in that message. I'm sorry, yes.
Thank you.
I
And at
apologize. Yeah.
that point, you immediately called the police. Is that correct?
No,
You called the police and asked them, well, within the same day, you called the police and asked them to put special attention on your home. Is
no,
that
I did
correct?
not.
Okay, could you read the rest of the report?
I did.
Bashar requests special attention to his residence on Saturday, February 26, 2011.
That's the next day after he showed up unannounced at my house. I dispatched the police to come out. He was escorted off my property, and then I asked could they provide special attention.
Read up on May 29, 2010. On May 29, 2010,
Right?
the PSD was dispatched to Bashar's residence, 552 Middlesex, and removed solely.
Right.
So that was the date they came and removed him, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so, once again, are you having trouble, are you confused when you're reading this report?
Well, no,
Okay, now let's take it step by step.
uh-huh.
They removed him on May 29, 2010,
Right.
per you calling them because he showed up unannounced, correct?
Right.
On February 25th, he contacted you via cell phone, correct?
Correct.
And stated that tomorrow, the following day, Saturday, February 26, 2011, at 8 a.m., he was coming to your residence, again, with the intention of collecting a debt. Is that correct?
Yes, 8 months later, yes.
Okay. Did you, in fact, then call the police and ask for special attention to be put on your house the next morning?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So at least on 2 occasions, when you felt threatened, you took immediate action to get protection for yourself and your family. Is that correct?
That is correct.
But in the case of Joe Gentz calling you, asking you for money, you did not immediately call the police, correct?
Correct.
You did not immediately go into the station to report it, correct?
That's correct.
And you did not at any point in time ask for special attention to be put on your house, correct?
That is correct.
As a matter of fact, the first time you indicate to the police that Joe Gentz may have something to do with this is after you have become a personal interest, correct?
Correct. It was after, no, I take that, no, that's incorrect. Let me correct that. It is not correct.
Okay, correct it.
The first time that I had expressed concern is when I got the phone call from him on that Saturday morning, not on Friday when I was made a person of interest. So that's incorrect.
So when are you claiming you told the police about Gentz the first time?
Pardon me?
When are you claiming you told the police about Gentz the first time?
Through the letter through Mr. Brewstar,
Okay, that was on the 20, that was on, what's the date on the
29th.
Okay, and you were named a person of interest on the 27th, is that correct?
That's correct.
So then the first time you indicated to the police anything about Joe Gentz was after you became a person of interest, correct?
Correct.
And as it relates to Mr. Popham, didn't you indicate to PSO Hayes when he came to your house, when he brought up Popham, that Popham was not a credible threat to you? Did you indicate that?
That was what he was what?
Did you indicate to PSO Hayes
Yes.
when he came to your house to take the report about Jane being missing, when PSO Hayes brought up Popham, did you indicate to him that Popham was not a credible threat?
I don't recall him bringing up Popham at that point.
Okay. Now, at any rate, the voicemail you claim you had from Popham, you saved it, is that correct?
Yes.
You indicated the police did not listen to it the morning when they came to give you the notification about Jane, is that correct?
No, they did not.
Okay. You did not bring your phone with you on the 26th when you gave your statement to the police to further give them that information, is that correct?
It was in my car. I did not take it into the station.
So the answer to the question is you did not bring your phone into the interview, correct?
Not into the interview, no.
Okay.
You said, did I bring it to the station? And I did bring it to the station,
Well,
but
if
not,
the purpose was to show them the person who could be potentially involved in the brutal death of your wife, you didn't, during the course of being interviewed by the police, did you ever say, wait a minute, I got some leads for you, potential leads for you, let me go back out to my car, get my cell phone so you can get this information, did you? You didn't do that, did you?
I did not.
Okay.
Why didn't you?
because at that point, I'd already given them his names, and they never asked me for it. And I, quite frankly, forgot that I even had the text message. And quite frankly, I don't even know if it was still saved at that point, because that's a year later.
Well, wait,
You said-
hold
wait
on for
a
a minute, wait. You said that you, because they didn't ask you about it, that you didn't provide it to them?
I did not.
Why? They're naming you, the focus is on you.
At that point, they hadn't named me a person of
Okay,
interest.
you're being interviewed about your wife and about who
Right.
brutally murdered her.
Right.
And,
And-
you don't, wait a minute,
Yep.
you don't offer up Popham and the voicemail and say, listen, I want you to listen to this?
I gave them the day before, or 2 days before, Popham and Blue's name. That's
But you
correct.
did not give them the voicemail.
That's correct.
Okay.
I did not.
Go ahead.
Okay. But you indicate, you said at that point you didn't know the focus was on you, but last week when you were testifying, I showed you the page in your statement to the press where you say, I realize I have to verify my times because people are going to be looking at me. Remember that?
I'm sorry, repeat the question again.
Do you recall do you recall in your statement to the police on the 26th?
Mhm.
You look at the transcript. Do you recall the point when you said you knew your friends had told you that the police were going to be looking at you? And
Yes.
this might happen. So you knew when you went in there that the police might be looking at you, so you should provide them with other leads.
And I did the day before. And I also offered to Locke and Olson a basic time frame of where I was that evening, because they asked me.
Okay.
Well, wait a minute, hold on for a minute. Now, on the 25th, you gave them Popham and Blue's names, is that
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Did you, wait a minute, did
Uh-huh.
you ever go back in your phone and check to see, number one, if you had saved a voice message and or text messages after to bootstrap what you said to the police? Did you ever check your phone?
No, I don't recall doing that, no.
Why?
I don't know. Your Honor, I don't know what I was doing at that point. I was in such a fog, I really don't know.
Okay. Well, you indicate that one of the reasons, or the main reasons in your motion for new trial that you wanted to have Hiller brought forth is because you wanted to bring forth evidence of this grudge. Is that correct?
Evidence of what?
The grudge.
The grudge.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you spoke to the police, you spoke to some reporters on the day you were named a person of interest. Is that correct?
I don't recall what day I spoke to them. And
Do you recall speaking to Gina Damron and or Alicia Anderson?
no, I don't recall that.
Well, there's Miss Anderson in the courtroom. You don't remember talking to her?
I can't see her.
Miss Anderson. You don't remember, sir?
I don't recall, no. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
I just handed you an article saying police, husband of Grosse Pointe Park woman strangled to death is a suspect. Have I handed that article?
Yes.
Okay. And you see the date on that article being as 11:17 p.m., January 27, 2012.
Correct.
Okay. That is the date you were named a person of interest. Is that correct?
Yes.
Could you turn to the second page, please? Do you see some
Just wait a
highlights?
minute now. You're going too fast. Let them read it now.
Okay.
Let us know when you finish.
Mm-hmm.
Take your time. Everybody, let's take a stretch break while he finishes reading. Stand up, let's take a stretch break. You may be seated.
I've read it.
Okay. At the point time, they're asking you about the treatment you're being given by the police. Is that correct?
Repeat that, I'm sorry.
Okay. Does the article indicate on Thursday, Bob Bashir told the Free Press that investigators have given him little information about his wife's death. He said, police are treating me kind of at arm's length. Your direct quote was, as far as they're concerned and whatnot, they have to consider me a suspect. Is that what you said at that point in time?
Did you say that, sir?
I may have, yes.
Okay. You did not say at that point in time, they're considering me as a suspect because the Grosse Pointe Park Police Department chief has a grudge against me. You didn't say that at that point in time.
No.
Now,
Well, let me ask you this. Don't you think that it would have been helpful since the media was there and you felt that maybe they were zeroing on you to let them know about the potential bias that Chief Heller may have had against you?
Your Honor, I had my mother and my son with me, as I recall. It was a very informal, wasn't even a press conference. To say that it, I just told the Free Press. It wasn't, I didn't hold a press conference or it wasn't anything formal. It was done in front of my house to say, please respect our privacy, as I recall, and then I made these statements.
But how
It-
much,
because-
wait a minute, hold on. How much would it have taken to say, you know what, police chief, Captain Locke, the police chief, they have a grudge against me, and this is all as a result of this grudge. How long would that have taken without going into detail
Right.
about what the grudge was about?
It wouldn't have taken that long at all, but I didn't say that.
Okay.
And I was told by...
There's no more question before you go ahead.
All right.
Now, you talked about your timeline and telling the police your timeline, and you indicated that you claimed that you told the police on the 27th about the change in your timeline. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
I did.
Okay. Certainly, you made several statements. You made several statements in the media. Is that correct?
When are we talking about?
At any point, after you realized your timeline had changed, you made several statements in the media, correct?
Okay, my timeline did not change, and I did not make several statements
Well, let's-
prior
let's
to
put it
that.
this way. Certainly, after the 27th, in your mind, you had already told the police that you had went back for keys. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And certainly, you did the interview for Dateline after you had told the police you went back for keys. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So when was the interview for Dateline done?
I
You know?
don't recall when that was. I think it was March or April. It was later.
Okay.
And when you did your interview for Dateline, you did not indicate to them, I went back to the house for keys, correct?
No, I did not.
And certainly, at that point in time, it was the truth that you had went back for keys, correct?
It was the what?
The
The
truth
truth.
that
The
you
tru-
had went back for keys.
Yes,
correct?
it was, absolutely.
And when you were doing your interviews for the press, you wanted to get your side of the story out and be truthful, is that correct?
Yes.
But you did not tell them you went back for keys, correct?
I already told the police that. I didn't think it was...
She said to Dateline.
No, I did not, because I wasn't asked that question. That's correct.
There are a lot of things that you specifically weren't asked that you volunteered information about, is that correct?
I don't know what you have to give me a point of reference. I volunteered as much as I could. I fully cooperated from day one.
Did they ask you what was your timeline?
Who, the police?
Dateline. Did they say, explain what you did that day?
I don't recall.
Okay. But certainly you didn't want to leave out that, you weren't trying to obscure the fact in the media that you would, you
well-
weren't trying to obscure the fact.
Explore, you said, or
Obscure.
obscure? I didn't understand the word she said. Obscure,
You weren't
no.
trying to obscure the
No,
fact.
absolutely not.
As a matter of fact, you know Eileen Stradilak,
I do.
and do you recall Eileen Stradilak's testimony concerning your conversation with her about
Yeah.
the keys?
Yes.
And do you recall she indicated she confronted you with the article where the article said that somebody had seen you pulling your van out or your navigator out? Do you recall that?
I recall many conversations with Eileen. What time are we talking about? When did I have this conversation with her?
The conversation that she testified about when she confronted you about an article that was in the paper.
That was,
Recall that?
that was probably 3 weeks after the 24th.
January?
No, it would be in February, 3 weeks after January 24th, correct?
Okay. She indicated she confronted you about an article, correct?
Yes,
And she did in fact confront you about the article, is that correct?
that's correct. In fact, it would have had to been almost in March, because that article didn't come out till the end of February.
Okay, now I'm a little bit confused because on Friday, Thursday and Friday, when I was asking you about media coverage of the case, when I was asking you specifically about Gentz's competency hearing and everything, you basically were saying that you weren't following the case in the media, correct?
I don't think that's correct at all. I don't think I remember saying I wasn't following it to the T, but I was following it.
Okay, so you were following it in the media.
Well, my family members were following it.
Sir, were you or weren't you? One or the other?
I was, and I wasn't.
Okay.
It's the best I can answer that, Your Honor.
You
Well,
were.
what part were you following?
I didn't want, the media's account of everything was absurd and ridiculous. They were basically regurgitating what they were fed by law enforcement and the prosecution. So I really didn't buy into what they were saying. I knew it was false. So I tried to ignore it. My mother and other people at our house were watching and, would ask me questions about it, and I would recount things or talk to them about it.
And that.
Well, real quick.
Yes.
You were concerned about the case against Joe Gentz, and you wanted him to pay for what he did to his wife, correct?
Absolutely.
His wife.
To your wife, correct?
Correct, yes.
So I would assume that you would have been following his court dates to find out what was going on with the case, correct?
I had no interest in his court date, no.
Oh, okay.
Any information I got,
that-
I got from David Grimm.
Did you see the date on that article?
Yep, I do.
February 29th?
Correct.
And February 29th is so Ms. Stradlack would have obviously had to have confronted you after that article was published, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you indicated to her at that point that you had went back for keys, is that correct?
No, not at that time. I indicated to her prior to the funeral when she was over making,
Okay, let me stop.
well, you asked me, I'm answering.
Prior to the funeral is a sufficient answer. I don't have to know when she was making whatever. You said you indicated to her prior to the funeral, is that correct?
That's correct, and that was her testimony.
That's the way you remember her testimony?
That is the way I remember it.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you a little bit about, you indicated that you wanted your attorneys to bring out that you had put power DTE bills in your name for other tenants. Is that correct?
Repeat the question again.
You indicated that you wanted your attorneys to bring out that you put DTE bills in your name for other tenants. Is that correct?
Yes.
Joe Gentz wasn't your tenant, correct?
No, he was not.
Okay. And Joe Gentz was somebody you barely knew. Is that correct?
At the time, yes.
Okay. At the time you put the power in your name, Joe Gentz was somebody you barely knew, correct?
Correct.
And also at the time you put the power in your name, you knew Joe Gentz had sketchy ability to pay you back, correct?
He had what?
Sketchy ability to pay you back.
No, I didn't believe that. That's incorrect.
Okay. But at any rate, you had never put power in somebody's name that was not a tenant of yours. Is that correct?
Up to that point, yes.
Up to that point, you had not, correct?
Correct.
But there was something about Joe that made you want to put power in your name for him, correct?
Yes.
And what was it?
Trying to help the man out He was working for me, so I felt I had the ability to withhold payment if he didn't make the payment. So there was a comfort level there that I had, even though I didn't know him that well, he was going to be.
How long had he been working for you at the time you put the power in your name?
I think at that point he didn't do a whole lot for me. We maybe one job at my house, working at my house, but the intent and the desire was for him to work on the roof and do a large amount of work for me, which would have amounted to several $1,000s.
Well, okay, I don't understand this because then basically you paying yourself. If you paying him money to pay back to you, I don't get that. I don't understand that, sir. Explain how that makes sense.
Well, it makes sense that I put the power in my name with the understanding that he would pay the bills. I wasn't paying the bills.
With what?
With money he had. He got $1,000 a month, he told me. His rent's $750, plus he did odd handyman work for other people. He had other jobs, other small jobs that he did for other people.
Dependable jobs?
I have no idea. He didn't tell me. He didn't get into detail.
But if he didn't tell you the other dependable jobs that he had, why would you put power in your name that could affect your credit on somebody that you really don't know?
Because he was doing work for me, and I felt that if he didn't pay the bills, I could simply deduct what he owed me from the utility bills from what he worked on. In other words, it's like almost like a security deposit. All right, I had what I felt was a security deposit with him because I was willing to do that based on the work he was willing to do. I needed the roof work done. It was very important. It was several $1,000s worth of labor that he was allegedly to perform for me.
Okay. How did you know that he could perform roof work?
Because he said he did roof work and tar work in the past.
Okay, so you just went on his word?
I did.
You didn't look into any references or anything?
I did not.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Now, let's talk a little bit about the weekend before Jane's murder. The weekend before Jane's murder, you spend time with Rachel Gillette, is that correct?
Yes.
You go to a BDSM event, is that correct?
Yes.
And she also sends you an email. Rachel Gillette sends you an email concerning your divorce. You recall that?
I don't recall it.
Okay. Can we have what was your email address?
Do you remember?
I had several of them. I don't recall.
Okay. Do you recall your email address being bigbob552@yahoo.com?
Yes, that was one of them.
And that was one email address that Rachel would have contact with you frequently?
Pardon?
That was one email address that Rachel would have contact with you frequently?
Yes.
And you would have contact with her through that email address, correct?
Yes.
Can I have 62?
Okay, look at this.
Could you go up to the date, time and date portion? Do you recognize that just me am what to be Rachel's email name?
Yes.
Email address?
Yes, I do.
Do you recognize the MB being Master Bob and your email address? Is that?
That's correct.
Okay. And it was sent to you Friday, January 20th, 2012
Yes.
at 10:55 p.m. Is that correct?
Yes.
That is the weekend before your wife was killed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And going on down to 1, 2, 3, the third paragraph, she indicates to you, so if I am wrong for insisting on seeing the divorce papers before I can believe you, I will apologize once I see them. You had told Rachel you were divorced. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that was a lie. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you told her the lie because you wanted to get something from her. Is that correct?
Repeat the question?
You told her the lie because you wanted to get something from her. Is that correct?
To get something from
Yes,
her?
to get her
No.
to stay in the relationship with you. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you did tell her the lie to get her to stay in a relationship with you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You did not, or you could have simply told her, no, I'm not divorced, deal with it, correct?
I'm sorry, repeat the question?
You could have simply told her, no, I'm not divorced, deal with it, correct?
I could have said that.
But given the choice between the truth and a lie, you chose to lie, correct?
In that circumstance, yes.
Okay. And you chose to lie to her repeatedly, is that correct?
Yes,
Because you told her you were divorced repeatedly, is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay. And so further on down to the last paragraph, she indicates to you, as I said, if I am wrong and you have told me the truth, I will apologize. I will try to rebuild the trust in you that I don't have. I will do my best to believe you no matter what my gut instinct tells me. Then she further on goes on to say, if you have not lied to me about your divorce, then you will be able to say I was wrong for not trusting you. But until I see those papers, you cannot say that to me. You cannot refuse to let me see those papers for myself and expect me to just take your word for it. I cannot do that anymore.
Okay?
She tells you that, is that correct?
She does tell me that, yes.
And that is that she sends you that email because at that point in time, she believes, or you have led her to believe that you're going to be moving in with her, is that correct?
Yes.
And leading her to believe that, you did that once again to keep her in the relationship, correct?
These are her words, not mine, but
My question to you is, did you lead her to believe that you two were going to have a life together to keep her in the relationship, correct?
yes.
Because you did not want to lose her, is that correct?
Yes.
Because you loved her. Is
I
that correct?
cared for her.
Did you love her?
Yes or no?
Yes.
At that time.
Yes.
Now, and over that weekend, you call Gents, or you make a phone call to Gentz's phone twice, is that correct?
I don't recall. I don't have the information in front of me. I made several calls to him. He called me.
Wait, you said you don't recall, we'll wait.
Okay?
Okay, can we have 121? We can just have a moment, Your Honor.
Take your time.
Okay, can I have the phone call from 121 and on them? Can you see that, Mr. Bashir?
Yes.
There were 2 phone calls for over a minute, is that correct?
Yes. According to that, yes.
Okay. Do you recall speaking with Mr. Gents?
I don't recall whether I spoke to him or left a voicemail message.
Okay. And what would your voicemail messages have been about?
Don't come to my house, that I'll get you the money that I owe you. I'm not paying you the whole amount I owe you because I'm withholding money for the utilities, and that I will pay you first of the week.
Okay. And you didn't put any of this in any type of writing, did you?
Pardon me?
You didn't put any of this in your agreement with him in any type of writing, did you?
Put any of what? Any of this, you're saying?
Arrangements, anything. How he was going to pay you.
In regards to the utilities? You're talking about in regards to the utilities? I'm just asking you to be more specific.
Any of the arrangements you had with him, was any of it in writing?
No, none of it was.
Let's take a 10-minute recess. Step down, Mr. Bashir. Let's take a recess. 10-minute
Okay.
recess.
make it 15.
Okay.